the topic for me today is the rise of Bharat, and where do we see the next founders, the next big founders coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, the actual Bharat story. If I had probably told you this thing in 2016, 2017, that the next big unicorn would come in from Ahmedabad, Coimbatore, Kochi, Bhubaneswar, probably you would be telling me that this is not possible. Typically, we have seen and witnessed the bigger ventures, bigger startup founders coming in from Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi. But that's not the case now. The true Bharat has arose, and we are seeing and witnessing a lot of new stories arising and coming out of tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Typically, nowadays, what I feel and believe is that the new challenges are being expressed and presented in the right fashion by tier 2 and tier 3 city founders and individuals. Talent today does not need a postcode. They need courage, and courage today is everywhere. So that's how I start my topic, the new wave of growth coming beyond metros, that is from the Bharat of India. I'll probably start with the venture that we have built. So I'm the founder with DevX. We started this company back in 2017, and the core fundamental belief was the fact that city like Ahmedabad can have a co-working space. When we were starting, there were doubts, there were challenges, there were issues created and thrown upon us, but we persisted with that, and we continued setting up the first big center in Ahmedabad with a 700-seater back in 2018. That was the biggest center to open up in a tier 2 town. In 2018, when we started, with all the doubts, challenges surrounding us, day one, it was full of people with ambition. The centers were full of people, full of founders who were looking to scale up their ventures and dreams in their eyes. And we were filled with 700 people using the first biggest center starting from a tier 2 city. That is how the story unfolded. And today, while I stand here on the stage, we are listed on both the stock exchanges of India. So there was an old belief that the new or the bigger stories can get unfolded only from metros. Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, they were the rising ones, and we have seen those. The reality on ground has changed. We today witness a community which is being built from Ahmedabad. There's a community which we all know, Ichai, right? There's been global phenomena of entities which have scaled outside of San Francisco and came to India, being adopted by all of us. And here is somebody developing a bigger community of that size and scale, rising right from Ahmedabad, sitting amongst us, as Ichai kind of scaled up massively, not only in India, but also globally. So the reality on ground is kind of changing and evolving. We have seen instances wherein Ichai and DevX hosting communities in Mumbai, in Bangalore, and in Pune. That is the power that a community which is getting evolved from a tier 2 or tier 3 town brings in. It not only grows on its own, it also adds 5 to 6 more people in their growth journey and help them scale up. That is what is changing on ground. That is what is evolving on ground. And these are true challenges that we as a country face that are getting solved. There would be a single individual starting up a cloud kitchen in a small town like Kollam, which we would not be aware of. There would be a SaaS startup building up in Surat. There would be a cloud-based app which would be starting up from Kota. These are smaller, just fragmented examples wherein we have witnessed people kind of scaling up and making it big from these tier 2 and tier 3 towns. There's a new energy and drive that is getting built up in the smaller cities. I foresee a lot of ambitions in the eyes of people that are setting up their new ventures. And that's where we come from. I personally come from a small town called Rajkot. My two partners come from Mehsana. And that is how the story unfolded. We intended to be setting up and continuing to keep our headquarters in Ahmedabad. There were pushbacks, there were people surrounding us who always pushed us to set up something in city like Mumbai or probably Bangalore, because that's where the headquarters typically are. We persisted with the thought process of keeping something in Ahmedabad in tier 2 town and building up in a city where we have grown and the city that has given so much to us. And today, while we speak, 70%, 75% of our portfolio out of 1 million square feet that we have belongs to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. We are in Udaipur, we are in Rajkot, we are in Surat, we are there in Baroda, we are there in Kochi. All these smaller towns probably did not have the infrastructure, neither did they have the community to build something on their own. Today we are proudly saying that we provide them that platform when they can thrive and come and set up their businesses. Probably come and brainstorm with us. There have been founders who come and sit along with us in Udaipur. Instead of sitting in a cozy room of their own apartment, they come to our co-working spaces and brainstorm with people, brainstorm with like-minded individuals when they can help them scale up. That is where the real story of Devex setting up in these tier 2 and tier 3 towns is getting unfolded. And that is where the entire community is getting built. So where does this core developments come from? So today, the power that we are getting as individuals from smaller towns is because of the infrastructure that is getting built around us. We see there is bullet train that is getting built, probably going live in the next couple of years. Aspirations of individuals residing in Anand, in Baroda, probably would be to the next level in 2027. It would not just be connectivity, but it would be the speed of network that the bullet train would bring in. People residing in Anand would have the power to go back to city like Mumbai and come back on the same day and see if their businesses can scale up with the same pace that the founder in Mumbai gets access to. And that is what the power of infrastructure that is getting built around us would come in. Then we have our own powerful UPI app, which does billions of transactions on a day-to-day basis. A case study which has not been heard of globally. A case study which is now being adopted in countries like Singapore, which were very well developed and established, are now using as to what the power of UPI is. ONDC, connecting all our e-commerce and empowering smaller sellers and buyers from tier 2 and tier 3 towns. These are just platforms which are just supporting small city dreamers to kind of scale it and make it big. And obviously the coastal connectivity. Probably the infrastructure that is getting built on these coastal towns, you would not have heard the names of Krishnaganj, a town like Dholera. These are industrial hubs today while we speak. These are small, extremely small towns and cities wherein individuals with dreams in those cities now are capable and empowered to scale and make it big. That is what the real Bharat is getting built. And that is where the next story or the next big unicorn probably can be unfolded from these small towns. These are a few of the success stories. Car Dekho is one of the largest unicorn today while we speak, unfolded right from Jaipur, persisted, continued their resilience of having their headquarters in Jaipur. Today while we speak, they employ more than 5,000 people in that city. Imagine a small town like Jaipur, back in those days when there was no MNC or a larger institution working out of there and setting up something as big as Car Dekho. Second, our very own Razorpay. The founders belong to a very small town. And same goes with Sugar Cosmetics. The founder is from a very small town called Kanpur. Like, these are the aspirations, these are small town promoters that have made out, gone out, taken the challenges which are thrown from the tier 2 cities, ecosystems not being there, platforms not being there, still being able to kind of make it and scale it the way we are doing it today. So the predominant push that is coming up is from the core ecosystem that is getting built around us. So the resilience that we see is from the hunger that we all as individuals have. As my previous speaker said, we today intend to showcase as to where we eat rather than inform people what we are eating. And that is the hunger that we are carrying today in terms of setting up our businesses as well. We are also looking at kind of developing something which is innovative in nature rather than adopting what is getting built globally or probably in other tier 1 cities. And as I mentioned, there's a community which is getting built. We today have a lot of fintech founders around us. We have today a lot of SaaS-based founders around us which support us, help us, guide us, enlighten us to scale and make it big, who have seen it in the past, done it in the past, and they are now giving back to the society. These sort of platforms or ecosystems are now supporting individuals to make and scale their ventures and go beyond than what earlier used to be the trends. And this is where I unfold why the next big founder would come from the Bharat story. My core fundamental is the fact, and I'm a true believer of that fact, that the next bigger founders, the next big unicorns would truly come from cities like Kochi, Surat, Baroda, Anand, Chandigarh, Bhubaneswar, because that is where the talent resides. That is where the hunger lies. That is where the core challenges that they are facing surrounding them enable them to empower them to kind of scale it big. I'll probably share one example. Today, while we are there in 12 cities, 7 cities out of those 12 cities are in tier 2 towns. There was a promoter or a founder sitting in Baroda who started along with us with 4 seats back in 2019. COVID hit. They were looking to set up a fintech product which can empower all the payment tech aggregators in the country. Obviously, there were challenges. A, the challenge was they were not able to find the talent. B, the challenge was they were not able to raise funding, because why would somebody infuse capital in a founder which is residing in Baroda? Because all the pumping in fintech was happening in larger tier 1 towns. And he persisted with the idea. Come 2021, he was able to generate a revenue of more than $2.5 million, a small infusion of capital of less than $1 million, which on the other side, their counterparts in tier 1 cities, they were burning money, they were scaling without thinking, and they did not have any runway to grow and scale beyond that limit. This founder, on a similar comparable basis, he was sitting on cash pile of more than $1 million, running a profitable venture, and competing with the likes that had all the powers and access to the talent in tier 1 cities. That is one such example that we witnessed in front of our eyes in Baroda. And there are innumerable such examples that we have witnessed in our journey as DevX from 2018 till date. The objective here is to support and empower all the founders, dreamers, and entrepreneurs that are coming from tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. Empower them with all the ecosystem access that we have, the network that we have created, and help them grow and reach the next level. The hunger that they showcase in their eyes is actually witnessed by us, and we have seen them scale beyond the traditional routes of scaling the venture. What do I urge all of you is the next rising story comes from Bharat. You all sitting in this room belong to the Bharat story. The next big idea would not come from Mumbai. The next big idea would be coming in from canteen of yours. It would come in from the co-working space in a small town of Rajkot. It would come in from the house of Udaipur. That is where the unfolding of the bigger story would come in. You are not late to reach out and scale up this venture. I urge all of you to connect the people with the people around you and see as to what scalability you can achieve as to the way we have done in the past. And we ourselves would be happy to support you with our platform and our network to help you scale up and grow beyond the traditional routes of scaling a business. The future truly belongs to the Bharat and not to the metros. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.